Hello all, and welcome to Cake Fest, where the asexual community takes on sexual media, one movie at a time. On today's hit list, we have The 40-Year-Old Virgin, an over-the-top sex comedy where our lead character, a longtime virgin, is guilt-tripped into having sex by his so-called friends. Is it over-the-top fun trash, or is it just trash? Let's see it today and find out for sure. So our film follows Andy, played by Steve Carell, who pretty much just does his regular bit, who after a few bad experiences with trying to have sex when he was young, shied away from the whole dating scene. When his friends find out that he's a 40-year-old virgin while playing poker with the guy, they make it their personal quest to get him laid, whether he likes it or not. So, I, like most people, saw this when it first came out, and I loved it back then. Laughed my head off. But I hadn't seen it since. After seeing it again, I kind of have to ask myself where my head was at. You can find this film pretty funny if you are pretty young and naive and just find sex jokes really, really funny. But now that I'm older and I'm more aware of stuff like sexism and homophobia and rape culture, I'm sorry everyone, but I just can't find this very funny anymore. Any friends give him a lot of advice on dating and trying to have sex, and all of their advice that his friends give him are either A, sexist as hell, or B, is related to rape culture in some way. One scene that really bothered me is where one of his friends tells him specifically to try and have sex with women who are drunk. He says they should be so drunk that they should be next to passed out, have vomit in their hair, and have no idea what's going on. If a woman is that drunk and you lead her into sex, that's rape. A person cannot properly consent to sex if they are passing out and have no idea what's going on. Andy's friend is flat out telling him he should try to have sex with completely passed out women and that this is okay. And I'm sorry, but that's not okay. That's flat out rape. But he says all men do this, so you should do it too. And it's just this whole spiel. It's just rape culture 101. And after this horrible talk that Andy has with this horrible friend, Andy gets into a car with a drunk woman that then proceeds to drive the car and almost crashes it and almost gets Andy killed. Now, I know what you are thinking. The sex advice Andy got was horrible, so it horribly screwed him over. So that indicates that sex advice is horrible and you shouldn't follow it. You could make this argument, but said drunk woman is made to look like a complete moron, and the scene is far more mocking her than it is Andy. So I'm sorry, but after a massive talk, which is nothing but pro-rape culture, and then a really long scene just meant to make fun of a girl character and have us laugh at her, kind of, sucks the fun out of the film. And all the friends' advice, all their advice is like this. It's all horribly sexist, it's all horribly ignorant, it all treats women like morons. Like, in one scene they say, don't say anything about yourself, just let them talk about themselves, because women are vain. That's practically the exact wording. And their advice works. It makes his life better. He becomes more social, he gets promoted at work, he gets a girlfriend out of the whole deal. So not only is this advice completely sexist, but the movie is saying it's all in the right and it's all works. So it would be kind of fine if something horrible happened to his friends so they would learn a lesson about not being dicks and not being sexist people. But they don't. They don't. Nothing bad happens to them. The film also makes it pretty clear at the start that Andy is sex repulsed, to the point where the idea of having sex causes him to have nightmares. The guy should not be letting his friends force him into something he doesn't want to do. But not only does he let them, it once again, it makes his life magically better and helps him. If you're extremely stressed out about something and you're not sure if it's a good idea, it's probably not a good idea and you probably shouldn't do it. The fact that the film pretty much ends with a musical number of him finally getting laid and saying sex is awesome is pretty much the cherry on top. He's completely given up on himself from the start of the film and just went along with whatever his friends said, and everything turned out great for him. So the moral of the story is to pretty much give up on your own morals and your own beliefs and just do what your friends tell you. What kind of motive is that? It's like a bizarro version of What's Your Number, where in that film it was about the main character accepting their sexuality. But in this one, the main character, it caves at every instance from peer pressure and says F you to his own sexuality and gets rewarded for it. And I know it's just a sex comedy, and I know it's just supposed to be funny, but I don't get why it says women have to be the butt of the joke. Once again, a lot of their advice from the friends is sexist. I don't know why it says gay people have to be the butt of a joke, because there's a lot of homophobic jokes in this too, by the way. I don't know why it says trans people have to be the butt of the joke. Yeah, there's transphobic jokes in this movie too. I don't get why a comedy has to be so mean-spirited and why it has to hate its lead so much, and this film hates its lead. There is no scene in the entire film where Andy openly says he wants to have sex. There's no scene where he says, my life would be better if I had sex. There's no scene where he shows genuine curiosity about sex for his own benefit. There's no scene of him trying to have sex and then him being repulsed pushes him away from sex. There's no scene giving him a reason to have sex in the first place. His only reason to have sex is because his friends tell him to. It's purely to benefit them, and they are horrible people. What kind of dumb motive is it to do something completely for jerks that don't even care about you? So yes, the scene where Andy gets the hair torn off his chest is very funny. It's a very funny scene. But there's just too much sexism, rape culture, mean-spiritedness to plow through to get to there. So in the end, I got to give this film a 3 out of 10, despite the fact that I liked it when I was young. I don't like it anymore. I think a lot of viewers let the crappy stuff in this film slide because they find it funny. You can do that if you want. I got nothing against someone enjoying a film, but there is a scene where Andy's boss says she had sex at 14 with a full-grown adult, and the movie plays this as a joke and as a positive thing without even batting an eye. I don't find pedophilia jokes funny. I don't. I didn't find a lot of this movie funny. As for the asexual viewpoint, well, I've heard a lot of horror stories about asexuals just not wanting sex and people hitting on them really hard, so the rape culture stuff I pointed out is bound to bother some people. And others may hate the idea that nobody will seem to leave Andy alone and just let him live his own life. I guess if you are a virgin, you might get a chuckle out of how dumb and off the movie is about that. So yep, I didn't like it. But once again, I don't care if you do. Everybody has different tastes. So, you can like it, but I personally did not like it. So yeah, that was my take on the film. Oddly, a whole lot more serious take than I was expecting. But once again, you can love it for crazy. I loved it when I was young, but I do think that growing up and me becoming more aware of the world, I can't ignore that stuff anymore. And the film has, in my mind, a lot of stuff wrong with it. So, anyways, that's just my take, of course. And tell me your thoughts, of course. And, of course, like always, have some cake. A big old slice.